Instead of being crowned homecoming queen, Grace spends the night giving birth to a baby girl. She calls her Peach, but that isn't the name her adopted parents choose. In the weeks after giving birth to Peach, or giving Peach to her adoptive parents, Grace realizes she needs to discover her own biological family and, in turn, her own identity. Grace has always known she was adopted, but never asked questions. Then she learns she's the middle child of three. She meets Maya first, a bold and outspoken brunette in a family of redheads who isn't ashamed that she's gay. While Maya's wealthy, loving family may look pretty perfect from the outside, she's forced to contend with her mother's severe alcoholism and the end of her adopted parents' marriage. Together, Maya and Grace go and meet their brother, Joaquin, at the Arts Center where he works. He's guarded and tough, the product of 18 different foster care families over the course of his young life. He's also protective and creative. Joaquin is with a couple who wants to adopt him, who loves him. Joaquin must contend with his past so he can let his sisters and his hopeful adoptive parents in. And when the three of them finally do all meet, something intangible just falls into place. Quote, the three of them stood looking at one another for a long minute. Joaquin was definitely not white like his sisters, that much was obvious, but he had Maya's brown eyes and curly dark hair and Grace's tight-set jaw. And Maya felt something in her cage catch and pull tight like a muscle that had never been used before. Her feeling was green like grass, like a seed coming up through dirt, sprouting and growing toward the sun, end quote. That's the premise of today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, the New York Times bestseller and National Book Award winner for young adult fiction, Far From the Tree. In each chapter, told to us from a point of view that shifts between Grace, Maya, and Joaquin, we're slowly allowed access to each of their lives. We become privy to the secrets, the hopes, and the fears that make them individuals, and then the relationship that eventually makes them family. The more the three siblings let each other in, the more their individual identities become clear. At its core, this is a story about family dynamics and how love and support does not look a certain way. The topic explored in Far From the Tree, the way alcoholism devastates a family, the emotional complexities of adoption, inescapable racism, LGBTQ+ love, the realities of teen pregnancy. Well, they could easily come across as soapy in a different, lesser novel. Instead, the author, Robin Benway, uses these familiar themes to her advantage, grounding us in a story we think we know, but then telling it to us in a way we really don't. Benway's accessible dialogue, straight from the halls of a local high school, nuanced characters, immense ability to convey emotion, masterful use of humor. It gives these topics the fresh perspective and gravity that they deserve. And yet, Far From the Tree has been removed from libraries in both Tennessee and Indiana. In Tennessee, Far From the Tree was included in a swath of books removed from Hamilton County schools for the use of curse words and a reference to sex. It's a shame that students in those states will miss out on a book that has so much to teach them about love, family, and identity. Far From the Tree solidified for me once again that young adult novels are critical. They're valuable. It's a reminder that life as a teenager is as fraught and complicated and just as serious as any adult's life. It's impossible to finish this book and not more clearly understand what it means to be a young person searching for identity, for community, for acceptance, and for love. We've all been there in one way or another. Today's session of the Velshi Band Book Club is now underway. Joining me now is Robin Benway, the author of Far From the Tree, a New York Times bestseller, a National Book Award winner in today's Velshi Band Book Club feature. Robin, welcome to the Velshi Band Book Club.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. What a beautiful intro. Thank you. I really was touched by that.
It's always tough to do these great books justice, but I'm glad when an author appreciates it, we at least represented them as well as we could. Let's talk about some of the ideas in the book. The idea of home being a place that is emotional, less than physical, is explored throughout the entire book. And we see it for the first time that Maya and her then girlfriend, in a conversation with her then girlfriend, Claire, quote, she had been dating Claire for 5 months and her arms were in a place safer and better than all the backyard hideouts in the world. Claire was security. Claire, Maya sometimes thought, felt like home, end quote. Tell me about this concept.
You know, I really feel like just for myself, when I look at the people in my life that I love, when I look at where they are in the world, when I'm with them, I'm home. I feel that safety. I feel that security. And I think especially when we talk about young adults, when we talk about young adult literature, what I love about that is that through these characters, they're on the cusp of growing up. They're on the cusp of leaving home, of becoming adults, of learning who they are separate from their parents. And I think even through that growth, there's always sort of a longing to think, well, where do I belong? And in that search, that's how you find your family. It might not be biological, but that's how you find the people that love and support you. And to me, that's what home is. It's a safe place to land.
Alice in Wonderland comes up for both Maya and Grace. Alice in Wonderland and Far From the Trees share some themes: identity, loss of innocence, coming of age. Talk to me about that reference and why you chose it.
I think just personally, I loved that movie as a kid. I remember watching it a lot. And my father, who has passed away 20 years ago, he and I would really laugh a lot at some of those parts. So it, again, made me think of my family. I think it's also that feeling of so much is out of your control. And sometimes as a teenager, things just feel so wacky. You feel so big one minute and then you feel so small the next. And there's so many things going on that are outside of your control. And I think that is, in a way, childhood and teenage, what it's like to be a teenager. You're expected to react correctly every single time when you can't always decide what's happening or have any control over what's happening around you.
The book opens with Grace's pregnancy as a teenager. She gives birth on homecoming night. I'll read from the book. It says, Peach was born at 9:03 p.m. on homecoming night, right when Max was being crowned homecoming king, because Grace thought bitterly, boys who get girls pregnant are heroes. Girls who get pregnant are sluts. The emotional toll of not only getting pregnant that young, but giving up a baby for adoption. You explore this through Far From the Tree. How'd you decide to incorporate that in the book, and what's the significance of it?
This book was very magical in many ways, mostly because this book landed fully formed in my head. And I can tell you that doesn't happen. I wish it happened every time, and it never does. And so I just had this idea of three siblings, and I just knew who they were. I knew their story, and I knew that Grace was pregnant. And what I really wanted to look at, especially, was this idea of, a lot of times instead of abortion, people say, well, you can place your baby for adoption. You can make a couple happy. And that is so true and so valid and such a beautiful thing to be able to do. And I fully, endorse it, so to speak. But what I really wanted to look at is, what is that postpartum experience for such a young girl, for a 16-year-old? We talk about pregnancy and, what it looks like to have a baby for women, but there aren't really a lot of resources out there for young girls. And what I wanted to do was start the book, Grace is giving birth on page 1 of the book, literally. And I wanted to look at what that looks like and what she has to go through in that experience, and what, the shame that she feels, in a way, the way people shame her about it, the feeling that she has about, well, who am I now? Like, the idea is, well, she'll just go back to her normal life, kind of a done and dusted thing. And that's just not the case. She's not the same person she was. And then you combine that with meeting two half siblings for the first time. She has this feeling like she has to put her best foot forward with them. And of course, that's not family. Well, they see it all.
You talk about the meeting. Maya and Grace are white and adopted. Their half-brother Joaquin is Latino. He remained in the foster care system, hopefully to be adopted. After Joaquin meets Maya and Grace for the first time, he tells his therapist, quote, "They're white," Joaquin added, tearing the paper off his straw as the waitress brought their drinks. She knew their orders by heart now. Anna and Joaquin hadn't seen a menu in 3 months. You thought that might be the case, Anna said. What about them? Were they nice? It's just, he started to say, then reached for his Coke. Anna raised an eyebrow. It's just, she prodded. Joaquin ran his thumb down the glass, leaving a dry stripe down the center of the condensation. They're both adopted, Their parents paid a lot of money to get them. Anna nodded. Probably so, yes. When Joaquin didn't respond, she added, "Does that bother you?" "It doesn't bother me for them," he said, then made another stripe on the glass. It's just, people got paid to keep me, and that still wasn't enough. That's a powerful statement, and the effort, the pressure that puts on the juxtaposition between Joaquin and his sisters.
Yes, it is. And, it's, when I first started writing this book, one of the things that I started researching was private adoption versus foster care versus, adopting out of foster care. There's so many different ways to adopt a child. And the thing that I really wanted to look at was how race is involved and why people will spend $50,000 to adopt a white baby girl when there are so many children of color in the foster care system. And I don't say that with judgment. I don't say that with any sort of repercussion. I just wanted to look at it and think about that. And that's how the character's identity started to form. And you know, Joaquin is a young man of color who is becoming a man of color, and he's still in a system that is not very friendly to children of color at times. You know, kids who are of color are put in foster care at a higher rate than white children. Parents of color have their children taken away at a higher rate than white parents. Those are unfortunately some of the facts, at least they were when I was researching and writing this book. And I just wanted to, you know, as a fiction, I always say this book is fiction. It's not a guide. It's not a manual. It's a story about three made up people from my brain, for better or for worse. And I really just wanted to look at, well, what does that look like? You know, this book doesn't have any answers. It doesn't have any explanation. It just basically is, well, why is it this way?
Robin Benway, thank you for being with us. Robin Benway is the author of today's Velshi Band Book Club feature, Far from the Tree.